I think we're live. So, guys, I have a big announcement. Section 8 Consulting, as many of you know, I've been doing this work now, 22 years. And after much debate and consideration, and especially after the pandemic, I have decided that in the coming future, I will be retiring and I will no longer be doing consulting work. Okay. So, over the next 20, let's say 24 months to 36 months, in between that right now, I'll be phasing down the services that I offer. Now, if you've booked with us, you're fine. I mean, we're talking about 2-3 years from now, but um, unfortunately, I have a life to live, and I've given my best over the years, and when we approach 25 years, almost soon, next couple of years, that I think that's the best that I can offer. There's a point where you become tired of doing it. And I got to tell you guys, what spurred it on was the pandemic. Clearly, doing consulting work, helping people get housing and vouchers and other issues. My company was pushed to its extremes. It's like you have a career that rolls along pretty normally, and a pandemic hits, and we saw a 500% increase to the point it dragged me into exhaustion. Through those 3 years, it dragged me through an exhaustion a minimum of 5 times a year. I went through burnout every 90 days, and it was me trying to save as many souls as I could to get them housing. And there just reaches a point where it's just too much. Now we're out this pandemic, and things are returning to normal. However, I think that the pandemic and what it's done to people has changed a lot. In the early years, people were very ingratiated by consulting with us and our services being offered. The pandemic has taken, and people have been adjusting to inflation and other issues with housing. And so the clientele that I'm currently getting is a little bit more mean and vicious and other things. You'd think, okay, I'm a consultant, I'm trying to help people housing, but the people that we're now getting are just much more difficult to deal with than any other time in my career. And it creates a source of stress. And so I don't like stress very much. And so I think retirement's around the corner. So I do know that in 24 months to 36 months, we're going to be phasing out things slowly. The $45 consults we ran for an eternity, decades, it seems like, will be one of the first things to go, because I find that in most cases, it's just a big waste of my time. A lot of people that book that, it's just usually and I'm going to be frank, nonsense. You know, we'll keep the consulting part up, and I think the phasing of services will be, that we're going to back down a number of days. There are other pursuits in life I'd like. Here I am, I'm heading for 50, and I can't do this for the rest of my life. So, that being said, if you've booked casework with us, and we'll be proceeding as normal, and it's fine, and we'll continue to be fine through 2023, 2024. But in 2025, which is the 25-year mark for me, that will be the very end of it. I have to move on, and I think I have several other companies, that deal with different things, including the Houston Rock Shop and so on. Go do things that I enjoy, more like hobbies that have turned into, financial support, and I think that's what I'll do. Now, the YouTube channel will remain. I'll still make videos, of course. There's no stress in that. You make videos, you help people buy a video. It just means that there'll just be no conceivable way to book me after the 2 to 3 year mark is up. When I go into retirement, there'll be no more bookings, and it'll just be videos. I've tried for, oh gosh, it seems like 2 decades now, to find suitable replacement for myself. There is no close second to me. I've looked across Instagram, TikTok, and all the social medias for other people in the field, and many have left a long time ago. I think that most of you are unaware that most of our clientele, not only the disabled, many of which have mental disabilities, and that's part of the behaviors that cause a lot of stress for me. I've tried to help, but often when you're dealing with clients that have paranoia, delusions, and other issues, they become very difficult to work with, and so we had to terminate a lot of cases. And I think the real big deciding factor for retirement was the obscene behavior that happened for Christmas. For the first time in oh god 5 years, I took a week off during Christmas. The behavior resembled some of the client behavior resembled toddlers having tantrums. It was wild. I terminated over 14 cases over that behavior. Um, my job obviously is to help people with housing and vouchers. What it's not is answering calls and emails from ridiculous people at 8, 9, and 2 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve, making demands like they're running something. And so I'm done with this wild behavior. And that really was the testing point for me. And so I'm not, I'm not here to bitch about anything, but I am. But I just want to say, it's been a long and good career. I think our results never yielded lower than I think 87% was the worst. Pandemic was a real put you in a check position to see how well you could do with things. I think that the level of things are fixing to change. With the new election coming up and with the changing of the guard for Congress, the House, and the Senate, we may find in the next couple of years or very soon that much of what HUD has currently through the pandemic will be defunded. Okay. That will be a negotiation on the table politically that if there's dollars to go, that Congress or the House politically will negotiate to wipe out most of HUD's budget. And we will see the great reduction of vouchers and housing that we've seen probably in the last decade. The spending party is coming to a quick close. And again, I don't take any I don't side any on either side politically. Okay, vouchers and people that need housing are of both affiliations, Republicans and Democrats. That's not what's important. What's important to understand is all the giving and the extreme nature of funding for housing and vouchers is going to start drying up, and I think that we'll start to see that as we move into summer. And I think that depending on how elections go and how who's got the House and who's got the Senate is going to determine just how badly this may go. And if it does go that way, we'll return to pre-pandemic times where you have a couple of good years and you have a couple of bad years. And I think we're probably looking into, and I hate to say it, a couple of bad years pretty soon. And it doesn't require a Republican or a Democrat president. It just matters who's running the House, who's running the Senate, and so on. And if they decide that money's better spent on potholes and wars, then HUD will be defunded, okay? And that's a reality we're fixing to face because they're already talking about it. I didn't want to make the video about that, but I think that we should be unequivocally aware that the flood of money that's been going into this for the last 3 or 4 years is pacing drying up. So with the retirement angle here, I will run with normal hours all the way till the summer. Then there will be reductions, and I'm going to stop working so many days. And another part of this is, I spoke with my doctor. Now this is my fault, my health. Obviously working and being in an office chair is not healthy, and then of course running down to the PHAs and McDonald's doesn't help you either, does it? And so I made myself pre-diabetic. I put on a bunch of weight. You can see it from early videos. I didn't weigh this much. And there are other health risks involved, and so it's just time to make a change. Now, many of you know I posted on our community page. So if you go and you click on the photo on the YouTube channel, and it brings you back to the main page, and then you go to the subsection, kind of like a website. It has a little bar where you can select which page you want to go to. There's a community page, and on that community page, we post things kind of like you would on Facebook. And so we had the Legal Aid Society Palm Beach invite me as a speaker, to speak about what the many different topics that are coming up. We're definitely, I just want to give an update about that. We're definitely looking to see what that's going to be. And I may end up being a speaker, around parts of the country for different legal aid societies that deal with housing. Look, what the work that I do is directly related to when you speak to housing attorneys and other issues. A lot of you guys deal with face harassment and discrimination. I can't even count how many times that I have been involved in a case where it required me to fly to a different city to give testimony, to be a speaker, to deal with news agencies. And of course, the direct relation with courts and battles and custodies and housing related issues to people, especially when it comes to legal aid societies that defend those of you that have been treated egregiously by your landlord. And though these attorneys for legal aid societies and housing attorneys and so on, though they're great attorneys and all that, they often have the missing link, and that's the true or genuine experience of understanding the law in a different fundamental way, which helps you battle it out and understand your rights. Because think about this: attorneys go to school to make money. There's an end goal there, right? You go there to become an attorney. You're studying law, but you're not going to be able to study every law in the U.S. Just too many, right? And so their focus has primarily been on legally helping people in a certain focus, a certain range of things. And since it's not that profitable to take on a lot of housing related cases, there's no money for clients that are fixed incomes. Their focus is very narrow. And so a lot of law firms or paralegals that work at law firms do contact me to include my advice and other opinions in their dissent or findings for cases. Because, as you can tell, a lot of people, like I was saying, about 45-minute, there's 20-minute calls for $45, which is pretty cheap. You think about that for a minute. Um, people laid some pretty serious issues. I mean, we get mail all the time, and some of these mails are several inches thick, nothing but legal papers. And these are 5 and 6 year old cases that have included arbitration, that have included attorneys and other situations. And we're having to comb through all of that. Some cases are rather sophisticated, and some of the issues that are related between tenants, landlords, and even housing authorities have gotten very nasty. The reality of it is, unlike a lot of federal programs out there, Social Security Administration's one federal agency, HUD's another. One of the most poorly managed things in America is our housing system for people that require vouchers. And it's an unnecessary system that's convoluted. We have 80 years of stacked policies, procedures, federal acts and regulation, all built on top. It's like a nasty cake from 1960, and we keep putting icing on this nasty cake that's rotten, right? We don't fix the core or change what it is. We just put a lovely new layer or glaze that cake one more time, but the core of it's trash. And so rather than rebuild this system, they keep adding new and more layers to it. They fund it and then defund it. And so that's what makes this job so damn hard, is because to keep up with everything, it requires an immense amount of information. It requires an immense amount of contacts dealing with housing authority employees, current and past, former directors of housing authorities, dealing with attorneys, paralegals, hell, even having to retain our own law firm to be on call just for us, to make sure that we're not navigating too far over that federal line to help clients. And so, and then you consider this: HUD itself, the federal agency, its job is to allocate funds clearly to the state and to housing authorities. But that allocation, and outside of that, their other job is to figure out discriminatory acts and other issues related to federal violations. And then you're also looking at situations where there may be other egregious behavior between tenants and PHAs, public housing authorities. Outside of that, HUD doesn't issue vouchers. Its job is to watch, to regulate, and to disperse money. And so we get into these housing authorities. The problem with housing authorities are half of them are privately owned. The other half may be sponsored and co-owned by city governments for different cities, but they all operate differently. So if HUD mandates a boilerplate instructions under federal law, I would say to you that they take that boilerplate and they adjust it to the local community. And so the policies for every single PHA, public housing authority in your city in America, and there are over 107,000 cities in America. Imagine that one. And you got several thousand public housing authorities, each one with its own policies, procedures, and operations, their own personalities, some that hire really bad people that just don't know anything that work there. They're just basically just data entry, and if they want to even answer the phone. And so when you tie in vouchers and housing as a serious issue, and then you're hiring people that honestly don't give a shit what happens to anybody, They're treating this like an algorithm, and what you get there is you have a housing authority that's run rogue. It's like the Wild West. Many housing authorities have clients and tenants. Well, I won't say tenants, but they have people that are applicants, okay, or participants, and those participants that they have that are signing up for these vouchers or subsidies through their housing authority. The problem that we have there is when we privatize something like that for money, then it means that their only interest at the PHA outside of dispersing the funds or vouchers is the fact that they don't want to do anything extra. They don't want you to call to educate you about anything. They're not paid to do so. You see where the problem, the brick wall is? That's the problem of connection. And so if you don't teach people, how are they going to navigate a system they don't understand? I've got people that comment on our videos. Look, we're probably pushing almost 1,000 videos. I mean, even HUD itself pales in comparison to my own channel. Matter of fact, I would say that any consultant that's on a public format, including TikTok and the rest, pale in comparison even to my own channel. That's how much information I have pumped into the market, so much so that videos span thousands of pages on Google. And even then, there's confusion about how to get vouchers, whether or not a voucher is something you're signing up and you're getting based on priorities, or is it based on a lottery system, or is it based on a mix? And then most people fundamentally only understand it from the perspective of what they saw as a child or their parents. So their idea of Section 8 and vouchers is coming from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then we have prejudicial behavior that's inclusive of all the activity, which means people's opinions all from the get are biased. Okay, could be biased, could be racist, could be bigoted, and so many things. And you get this whirlwind like a tornado. Housing authority don't want to do only what they have to absolutely required, like a prison and guarding its inmates. Only wants to do what it's got to do. Won't educate. We have a system of things where we don't want to teach anybody anything, and people are just running around and they're just giving bullshit advice to each other, and it perpetuates itself over decades. And trying to unwind this for years, a decade, 2 decades, to unwind this and teach people that the system doesn't fundamentally work in that manner is a bit of a difficult one. So, but I could go on for days. That's the thing. I could digress on about 100,000 different subjects. But the reality is that we do face is just simply this. Um, I am going to retire. It's something that's got to happen. I would like to move on to doing something new that I enjoy. And I will, again, that's going to happen in 24 to 36 months, which is 1 to 3 years. And I think that 25 years is a sufficient amount of time to educate and teach. I'm sad, really, that there's really not a close second to me. And again, I tried for years to teach people. The problem is most people just want to clock in and make dollars. They don't really care. Now, if you have a person that's going to consult that doesn't care, that doesn't have any emotional attachment, that has no moral center, that has no standard, no ethic involved in it, then they're not going to be effective because they're not honestly going to care about people. When they get on the phone, they're not going to want to talk about you, your kids, and all that. Look, I've had some of the most glorious conversations with you guys on the phone. I've had everything from 100-year-old women that were in tears and suicidal because they've lost everything. There are days that, let me tell you, if I started this career with a straight mind, there were days I was dragged into almost being, mentally ill myself because you hear so much, you soak it up, and after a while, it affects you. Of course, it affects you. How could you face those people on the phone, hear them, work with them, and not care whether or not that person's going to freeze to death in their car? It takes a special kind of person to actually give a damn, and that's the career I'd face. And unfortunately, it's now affecting me, in many ways, including my health. And I've made my own health decisions, but part of it's stress. But I'm getting better. So that is the big announcement. You have nothing to fear, and I would suggest to you, if you're going to book with our office, you better do it in the next 3 years, okay? Because when the 3-year mark hits, that's it. The channel will remain here. I will probably make one video a week just to keep things juicy, for you guys. But there will be no more consulting. I intend on pursuing my own hobbies, doing some traveling. I don't want to be 98 years old doing this, okay? As much as I love everybody, as much as I like to rescue the homeless, to work with veterans that have served and damn near died for our country, for people that have worked as professionals all their life and are left with nothing after a bad marriage and now depend on a voucher, for those women, men and women that have worked their career, whether it was at a fast food joint or at a restaurant for 30 years, and they've been left with a fixed income they can't live on. Look, there's nothing you should never be ashamed. You're not ashamed when you get your Social Security check. Don't ever be ashamed in asking the government for help. You sit, you paid, you worked all your life for it. Don't be ashamed of that. If you're disabled, you don't have legs, you don't have eyes, and other issues, don't be ashamed of that. We're not wild monkeys. We can't live in a tree. We're not cattle. We can't stay out in the rain. Housing is a necessity for life. And so that's how I view it. Maybe I'm the extraordinary super liberal. Who knows? I'm not, again, it's not a political issue. It's just that I care. Same way I care about those 22 cats I've got. So I'd say to you guys, if you have casework with us, we'll continue as normal. But starting this summer, I'm going to reduce the workload, and it will eventually, over a 2 to 3 year period, will end. And it'll end on a 25-year marked history of doing this, a decade on YouTube. And again, I tried for a long time to teach different people, but they don't, we don't produce enough people out there to just give a damn. I think there are special people out there that work in psychiatry and other things that would have been excellent in my field, but unfortunately, they're not in my field. And I think that HUD and the housing system will fundamentally change by 2030. I think that at some point, this old, rickety, antiquated system will be overhauled. It's going to take a serious crisis. And I think that somewhere in the next 10 years, we're going to face that very serious crisis. And it's going to be one of the most, it's going to be a record setter, trust me. Because on the current path that we're on, and I can look back over 20 years and I can tell you one thing, on the current path that we're on with the lack of housing and only building homes for the rich and inflation and other issues, on the current track we're on, there's going to be a destabilizing event that's going to absolutely rock us in this country in the next 10 years. When it does happen, we're going to have to completely gut the fundamental system of how HUD does things, how we're funding things, and so on. And we're going to have to recreate the system. You can't keep putting lipstick on a pig. You might think the pig's pretty because of the lipstick, but it doesn't work that way. We've been icing this cake so long, the core of it's rotten. It's rotten as hell. We really just need to sit down around the table and redesign the whole damn thing to work better. We should not have PHAs really need to be pulled out of the public market for profit. That's nonsense. As long as it's for profit, the people that actually need this are not going to do well. And there needs to be, some of those billions need to be spent on education, a serious educational system, and quit leaving people where they don't know anything. Even HUD struggles with his own website. Hundreds of thousands of web links to different pages of HUD's website. It's gotten so big and so outdated, they have a hard time keeping up with it. Even the young boys and girls they've hired at HUD to handle their news stories and social media, they're not even keeping up that well. I heard people say, oh, well, I went to HUD.gov. Well, so what? I've been there. Look, I've seen people that sell fidget spinners with a better website. I have nothing against HUD. Actually, I think HUD has done a great job. Marissa Fudge that runs it's done a great job. But I think what I'd like to say about the HUD is it's going to have to change the system, because what's going on is people are still running these public housing. They're owning, buying, and administering these public housing authorities, and they are doing what the fuck they want to do. You look up on Google, housing authority lawsuit. There are so many, it's wild. The feds and even HUD have stormed the building and indicted people. Entire housing authorities dragged through federal courts. This goes on every single day because it's so broke, so little oversight. People have been treated like inmates and trash. Everybody's just a hooker and a crackhead. It's pretty much the concept of these PHAs. And hiring people, ignorant people to work at a housing, I mean ignorant, from the trailer park and out in the ditch Okay. To go over there and answer telephones is not the way to handle business because they can't afford nothing else. They can afford to pay one director, and then everybody else is Sally Clown answering the phone. Sally Ding Dongs is don't know nothing when you ask her questions. Let me give you a good example. I'm not going to name the housing authority. I called them a housing authority the other day. I sit there and I was verbatim federal law to this woman and asking for very specific, giving her very specific directions. She had no fucking idea what I was talking about. It was like she had worked in a gardening center at Big Bob's Hardware and had no fucking idea about anything. Who are we paying to operate these PHAs? Why are we driving around the corner to hire prostitutes and fools to run the place if they don't even fucking read their own manuals? You see what I deal with every day? I've got to get on. I got to do my job, contact these people, and they don't even know their own policies. It's sitting in the bathroom. They haven't read that motherfucker since 1982. They don't even read their own manuals. And you're supposed to work with them. Then they'll make up and invent things. I deal with it all the time. You deal with the housing, you call them, they'll make up all kinds of stuff. It don't even make any sense anymore. Some housing authority, I'm convinced at this point, they're operating it out of a bar room or something because the people there have more mental illness, either mentally ill or they're suffering so badly that they have no creative solutions for anything. It's maddening. It's maddening to the point that I haven't even begun to use expletives when I think about it and what you have to deal with. You know, it's turned into a joke. It's almost like you've got party clowns working there. Now, is it every housing authority? No. And clearly some housing authorities have highly educated people. But the vast majority of this is an absolute fabulous joke. There are many housing authorities. I know you guys don't know this in small towns. You've got one person in their 80s working at a housing authority. It's not even a housing authority. It's an old shotgun house from the 1940s, a captain's house. You got one little old lady, and her whole job is run the whole building. Okay? You got 1,000 applicants. You got one person, and look, it's a joke. It's a fabulous joke. You might as well open your PHA at the retirement center. Or you're hiring people that have not even gotten their certificate from kindergarten yet. They're in the building. They have functionally figured out how to pick up the telephone, how to answer it, but they don't have any other answers. So you guys come to me on my channel. We try to work with that, but I want y'all to see what I face every day. So you get off the phone, I'm ready to tear up half my office because I've just talked to the stupidest fucking person that ever walked the planet. That is dealing with the housing authorities in America. Okay? And they'd be, oh, well, this is a program for people that have never worked and all this. Well, that's bullshit. Okay? Everybody that's ever called my office has served our country in a war, worked 30 years as a nurse and other things. Given their very finest, life happens, doesn't it? Life happens. Sometimes it's just bad planning for retirement. But man, I got to tell you, it's maddening to deal with this, and I've tried to logic it for years for you guys. And then you ask me, a lot of you guys, you want miracles. You call them all, you want a miracle. Hey, I need a voucher. I need it fast. And I've been producing fast and miracles for quite a while. Because in order to defeat a broken system where you have a bunch of foolish people that are underpaid to run PHAs, then you have to understand the fundamentals. And even when it's written in federal law, code of federal regulation, policy and procedure, even when it's written, half the time they hire people that have never for a moment read their own policy and procedures. They're absolutely dumbfounded the minute you get on the phone line goes dead. And when you write about something, the only thing they can quietly do is, here's what usually happens. They get real quiet on the phone with me because they know they're caught at that point. They know they're caught because they were hired to clean the toilet in the building, and now they're the master. Now they're the executive level person handling everything at the housing authority. Sally was scrubbing toilets last week. Now she is the executive, and she doesn't like phone calls. You interrupt slipper time and Netflix because most of these housing authorities are you still using pandemic excuses. Do you realize a lot of your caseworkers are still in their slippers in their house, and every time you ring them, you're disturbing them watching Netflix? They're not doing shit, man. Look, I could just tell you stories that would just It's hair raising. Now, is that a reality for every housing authority in America? No, of course. But I want you to understand that I couldn't not invent this. I couldn't make it up if I tried because it's a reality. How do I know these things? Because look, every time I've had a shitty comment on my channel, it's been from a current housing authority employee. And I've got good ones and bad ones, you know? Oh, well, we don't do that. Of course you do. Well, how do I know that? Because I could count on both of my hands how many former housing directors that have spoke to our office we keep on speed dial to cover issues. Now, these are directors, the head of it. Now, if we're in contact with them, we already have everything, every known piece of paperwork for the policies and procedures in our office. Then I can tell you that easily we know exactly what's happening. We know what's happening. There's no mystery. It's only just shock and awe when you actually see what you're dealing with. And so that is what we are dealing with. So let's make no mistake. So, guys, in closing this, I'm just going to tell you this. You need help, contact our office because in 3 years, I'm retiring, and that is that. And again, I'll continue to teach and make videos because I actually do care. But unfortunately, 25 years of my life is good enough. And then after that, I'm moving on. Okay. I have better things to do with my retirement. As much as I'd love to do this, I've never found a good suitable replacement. There are many people that have inquired about it, but I feel that in many of those situations that they would just weaponize their ability to make money off of you guys. And let's think about reality real quick. When you take and you look at consulting over 4 months, we charge a specific price. I think it's $695. It's a lot of money if you're on fixed income, right? You take that number, you divide it across 4 months. So let's just do some quick math so you guys can understand the reality of cost. Okay. So if it's $695 and you divide it across 4 months, that means our office is asking for $173 a month. And out of that month, we divide that again by 4 out of weeks, and you're paying me $43.43 a week. Then we divide that by 5 days, and you're paying me $8 a day. Now I have people to complain about that. They would like it for a nickel. Can I get it for a penny? Can I get it for nothing? I've already got a food stamp card. Could you also give me something else free? I like to collect free things. I'm tired of that too. Look, guys, I would love to have a full staff of professionals work for me, but you can't do that for $8 a day. And even if I have 5 people that pay me $8 a day, it's not enough, right? So you see, the opinion that me and my office are just drowning in cash, that's not a reality. It never has been. There are plumbers that make more than I do. Okay. The plumber, the guy that unclogs your toilet, actually makes more money than my office. Okay. The attorney that calls and says, hey, we'd like to consult with you, Mr. Roulette. We're going to charge $900 an hour. We're happy to give you a few nickels from that. I'm not stupid. I figured that out a long time ago. But the reality is the only way to make it affordable for people is to offer it in this manner. But that's it. It's $868 a day. It's a little bit more than that a week, $47 a week, $173 in a month, and over 4 months. And in most cases, and 91% of the time, people get what they want. 9% of the time, that's the risk that you've gambled with. It was better than anything you could have done on your own anyways. A lot of people come to that realization. There's knowing nothing, which is virtually everybody, and then dealing with somebody that has spent damn near 22 years in the industry and understands it. Okay? There's always a bit of gambling with this, trust me. Not every case is worth dealing with. I get them all the time. Oh, well, I just graduated. I hate my job at Walmart. I feel very entitled today to a voucher. And then I just hang up. I'm not here to help capable people that are just foolish. I'm here to help people that are disabled, that are veterans, that are domestic violence victims, that are facing homelessness. Okay? And people, and also families and single parents that have disabled children. I can think of a few cases I could tell you about children not having housing, and the parents are literally living in the car and don't have oxygen for a child that requires it. And a lot of you guys think you got a good case. 2 years ago, we rescued a family of 12 out the woods. Woods, folks, living in a tent, living in the woods. And then I'm supposed to just go lay down at 9 o'clock at night and not worry what happens? That I can just go sleep peacefully? Look, this is a tough job. Always will be. It ain't for everybody. And then to be good at it and or be exceptional and actually produce results, that's a whole nother story. And I got to tell you guys, through the pandemic, you guys really tested the limits of what I could do. I don't think most of you realize, but I was working 18-hour days and I was working 7 days a week. And I made a little more money than I did normally. I just took on a whole lot more. I cared too damn much. And, a lot of people got what they needed. And what was so interesting about it is the minute they got what they want, I never heard from them again. Not thank you, not fuck you, nothing. Let's be clear. A lot of people just don't care. They just want what they want. It's like Amazon, right? Let me order something, don't thank nobody, and then vanish. That's the toughest part of my job, is caring about people that don't even have enough sense to care. But many of you do. And I've enjoyed a very lengthy relationship with many of you, many of which I still call on my free time outside of the normal realm of the contractual agreement. As a matter of fact, Jackie out of Chicago, it's a later age, a black woman out of Chicago. She's got one of the most upbeat personalities I've ever dealt with. I call her sporadically over the years, and there's a bunch of others that I can name. Matter of fact, there's a few here that are chatting in the channel. Mr. Roland Bays, I remember him. Eleanor, how are you? I remember you. Matter of fact, a lot of these names I know. I know most of you personally. I've worked with you guys or have worked for you at some point. So a lot of great friendships. I've also met people that had extraordinary lives, that had extraordinarily bad luck and end up having to take a voucher, had an unbelievably financial secure future. Things happen. And now that, and so you've been relegated to a tough situation, and now you're having to need vouchers, and it makes my heart hurt because I can't even really imagine what that must be like. But I can't fix the world and I can't save everybody. And so, with that being said, guys, I'll begin the retirement in 24 to 36 months. We'll slowly start phasing things out starting this summer, and that will be the end. And I'll continue. The channel will remain live. The website will come down, and hopefully, if anything, when I take my last breath, that I've done something decent for this whole world. If I have not, then I get what I deserve. So, well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you. If you didn't like the profanities, that's life. You're gonna hear them no matter what. The world does what it wants, and I think that profanities have always been if they're used the right way, if there's any right way to use them, they do truly express the emotion and true gravity of the situation, and that's why I choose to use them on occasion. I know YouTube doesn't like it, and my good Christian folks don't like it. So, but we all have to get past ourselves, right? All right, guys, I'm gonna do some shout outs. Shirley Griffin, how are you? Good afternoon. Super B45, greetings. Roland Bays, how have you been, friend? KD has a message that has been retracted by YouTube, and I don't know why. I have to look into that. Eleanor Lee Rowe, so true. Sheila Neal, yes, I agree with you absolutely. Super Queen B says, thank you for all you do. Troy 49, no, because you're a true human being with a big heart. Thank you, Troy. It's always nice to be thanked. It's something that we have gotten away from in this whole world, is saying yes, sir, no, sir, and thank you. And it means so much more. You can't even pay for that. And if people would just appreciate a little bit more, it would be helpful for me. City Survivor, I'm here too in Houston. I am thankful for all you do. You're so right. I appreciate you saying that, confirming some of the things that I've tried to understand and convey for you guys. I've been a last defense for many when it comes to vouchers and housing. Sometimes I've done a good job. Sometimes I've done a bad job. Sometimes I've even questioned whether if I am actually really a good consultant because, the pandemic changed things. It's made it harder. I don't have a flawless reputation. Clearly, we're not successful all the time, but I'm a hell of a lot more successful than most. And in a perfect world, I would love to get and deliver for everybody, but it doesn't always happen that way. Peter Gazer, he's done. Well, Mr. Gazer, I'm not done yet. I'll be done in 24 to 36 months as we phase out. Well, guys, if you are struggling with housing or other issues, I'm going to post some links to our company. We are fully sanctioned. We have all our federal filings, state filings, and so on. We are on audit, And you can check out our page, check out our website, check out our career, check out the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reviews from people. And if you can't find a better alternative, you can't figure it out for yourself, you're tired of losing sleep, you're just about to have a mental meltdown because you can't get it done, then I am a last resort for most of you guys. Don't be scared to utilize that. All right, guys, I've enjoyed making this video. There'll be many more coming, but this is the official retirement announcement. And it breaks my heart a little bit to have to make that announcement. But yep, careers do have to end. And I think almost 25 years is where I should be with things. All right. I've enjoyed talking with y'all. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.